You know, I've spent like the last 7 years making videos, and I've done everything from politics to dating scene. And one of my goals was to try to get people to understand the way they're treating one another is one of the number one leading causes to the domestic violence, to divorce, and to the death rate of women killing men, men killing women. And then I've watched the double standards in society, and I've watched how one gender constantly is being put up the spotlight as being the blame for it all, the blame for it all. Just like in politics, you hear not everybody, but you hear an awful lot of people blame one race, like the Jews, for everything, okay? When there's no truth to that whatsoever. And I've tried to tell people before, names and faces, not an entire race, not an entire culture. Okay, there's good and bad in every single race across the globe. And this is the reason you have to look at names and faces. And then in the dating scene, men are always the ones that are put out to be the villains, the villains, the villains, the villains. I stick up for both genders, but I wind up having to say more about men's rights than I do women's rights, for the fact that society is constantly putting men in the spotlight as being the villain and covering up for the female. I'm not blaming that on the female, but it is the truth, and it's division, okay, is what it is. It's division. It's to keep us divided, it's to keep us fighting. But I've tried to point these things out, and I've turned your old cop-outs that you people love to use on one another. I've turned them around. You know how the man's always at fault. It's his fault, it's his fault, it's his fault, it's his fault. I've turned that around and become sarcastic sometimes, and I'll do a news story, and I would say, it's her fault, it's her fault, it's her fault, it's her fault. But I never meant it, okay? I did it as an example to show you how it feels when you do it to the other gender. And, of course, it pisses people off when they have to feel what they don't want to feel. But you got to use your head. If you blame the men for everything, and the men get angry, then you're mad at them for being angry and furtherly victimizing them. But yet if the women are blamed for everything, they get just as angry as the man would, because they're not at fault for everything. Okay? But the one-sidedness, the double standard, always steps in your way, don't it? To think that's normal behavior when it's not. So I've used many different ways and many different techniques in my videos to try to point to you people what you're doing to one another. Get people to step back and use their heads to reduce the amount of violence, to reduce the amount of women that are being killed, the amount of men that are being killed by one another in relationships and so on. But all I seem to get from a lot of people is you like to listen to part of what I say, or you like to take my words and flip them. Flip them to your own want to try to make me look like I'm saying something I'm not. I guess it makes you feel big inside. It's sort of like what the gals at the Holiday Inn Express in Sheldon, Iowa did. That's right, listen to part of my video, part of one or two videos, what have you. Took my message, didn't listen to it all, completely spun my words upside down in their head, and said that I promote something that I've never promoted in my life because they didn't listen or because they were angry. And what's even more sadder is when you can spend almost 2 years, about 2 years working with these people every single day, and they couldn't even have communication with you. When they seen one of your videos, they got pissed off, probably listened to only part of the video to begin with, because if they'd ever listened to the whole video, they would have realized what my message really was, but it's obvious they didn't. It's very obvious they didn't listen to what I was saying, okay, by the accusations that was lodged against me for the reason that they used to fire me, which was slander, because you didn't listen to what I was saying to begin with, and you only heard what you wanted to hear. You know, you used your selective hearing, threw everything else away that I said, and only remembered certain words because you wanted to use selective hearing. But anyhow, this gal right here, she's made some comments that are outstanding. So watch this.
Our government is destroying the American people. Some they kill and murder physically by sending them off to wars, especially when the wars are based on deception. We have a president with a hit list, claiming that he has the right to kill Americans without due process, without being charged, without having a trial, without being convicted of guilt, based on his suspicion, without court review. We have families that are just leaving their members homeless. The longer they're homeless, the harder it is to get back their life. We have friends betraying one another left and right, destroying the trust. We have adults gossiping and laughing about people who have different ways of thinking or dressing, looking. Destroying their individuality, their authenticity, forcing them to fit the mold. If you don't fit the mold, then you get laughed at. And taxes, right? We're getting taxed left and right, and unemployed, no jobs to be had. And then we blame the victims of the policies and laws and regulations coming out of Washington. We blame them for their circumstance. Killing their spirit, killing their soul. That's soul murder. We don't listen to one another. We tell people to move on when they're hurting. That's soul murder. Destroys the vitality of life. Thank you for watching.
Every last word she spoke is so true. So true. You know, right down to even blaming because of the policies and stuff. Blaming the homeless person or the homeless family that spent their life working for everything they got. Their job was outsourced and they couldn't get another job. So many people had this happen to them. Couldn't get another job, broke their butt to try to get another job, wound up on the street in a tent, and then we blamed them. Just like the bullies who bully people, and the person they're bullying, they bully them and bully them and bully them because they didn't fit the hive mind. You know what she talked about. You didn't fit the programming. What your TV said and your books and magazines said you're supposed to think like, act like, talk like, walk like a TV said. And because they didn't use one brain in a jar to think with, and they were an individual that used their own brain, you bullied them, you bullied them, you bullied them, you bullied them. And then they lost their brain because you pushed them to the edge of suicide and they done something horrific, terrible, out of being victimized so bad that they've lost it. Then once again you turn around and you blame them. This is what I've spoke against for so long, to try to get you people to see what you're actually really doing. To see what your TV said, your books and magazines, how they programmed you people. But you don't want to see it. You want to turn and look the other way. You know, just like the people at the Holiday Inn. They only listened to part of a message, played selective hearing. And they attacked the person who was trying to save people's lives. And called him a nut. That's right. That's what they done. Called him a nut. And then turned their words, their message, to try to save people's lives around on them and said that they promote this behavior. When in reality, every last word they said was a lie because they didn't pay attention, because they didn't listen to what was being said, or because they just don't like the idea that somebody cares about other people. Because they don't have the ability to care about other people themselves. But whatever the reason was, it was completely lame. It was completely, just totally lame. Okay? So they committed slander. That's right, that's really what they done. They committed slander as they flipped my message. Don't do them any good to flip my message, because my message has been put out there to try to wake people up, to help people. This gal that you just heard spoke the truth so well, so very well, you know. And this is the type of stuff right here that I've been fighting to try to stop.
Happened again.
So here you go, guys. Stabbed to death by his very first girlfriend. He was only 20 years old. That's right. And his very first girlfriend ever just happened to be 11 years older than him. Already had kids, of course. That's right. Of course she already had kids at that age, okay? But that was his very first girlfriend. And he was 20 years old, very young, very young. And, well, as you can tell, this is what love looks like in today's society because of the way we treat one another. That's right, because of the division and the way we treat each other. So, as sad as it is to say, he's dead by her hands. You know, I guess that's because women are weaker than men. That's why he's dead, right? That's right, he's dead because society said women are weaker than men. So he died because he wasn't strong enough to endure being stabbed with a knife 24 times, right? Because he's supposed to be tough, strong, and durable. He'll be able to take it all. Don't matter what it is. But I'm being a little sarcastic there, but that's what we see in today's society, isn't it? Okay? It's this type of behavior. This type of behavior right here has become perfectly normal. And you use all the cop-outs to go around. Cop-outs to go around to not a knowledge. That's right, to go around to not a knowledge. And then we have this right here. Scorned ex-wife who killed sleeping husband by dousing him with boiling water. Okay? And when you read the story, you also find out she took a baseball bat and started cold-cocking him. So she beat the shit out of him with a baseball bat after she doused him with water. And she done all of this while he was asleep. She decided while he was in bed sleeping that she could go ahead and pull the blankets off, throw boiling hot water on him, and have a baseball bat in her hand and beat the hell out of him. Okay? Well, I guess that's love, isn't it? That's what we call love in today's society. This is love. This is what you're looking at, is love. Okay? This is what I've tried for so long now to point out to people. The way we treat each other. That's right. The way we treat each other, the way we victimize one another. The way even when bullies in school get together and bully somebody and bully them over and over and over and over again. That's right. Bully them over and over and over again. And then the person you bully finally has had it, can't take it no more, and loses their mind and does something tragic. Like recently there was a bully who, or the victim of the bullies, who went back to school or wherever with a gun. He didn't target nobody but the people who bullied him. And then the family members are trying to say that the school should have known that he was dangerous. No. The family members should take a responsibility when your children are bullying somebody and corrected their behavior. But you don't want to do that, no. You want to say that it's perfectly normal to bully somebody and they need to learn how to man up and just take it. And as long as you want to have that type of behavior, when they lose their mind because they can't take the abuse that you're dishing on them anymore, it's like backing a lion into a corner. If you back a lion into the corner and it can't get out and it comes out fighting and kills you, whose fault is it? It's yours. Well, it's the same thing here. When you bully somebody over and over and over and over and over again, they've down lost their mind because of the behavior that you pushed onto them. And then you want to say it's perfectly normal. They're supposed to man up and take it, huh? Well, then I suppose that when you want to have that type of behavior to use your cop-out to go around and on a knowledge, when something tragic like that happens, then I suppose what we should tell you is the same thing you've told us. Man up and take it. Your kids being shot was part of manning up and taking it, right? No, I'm just using your own cop-out, okay? Your very own cop-out that you use on the victim all the time. And so I turned your cop-out around, and I was just curious that how you feel about when your very own cop-out's used against you, rather than acknowledging the truth.
This morning at a quiet suburban office tower, it happened again.
The midweek office routine is shattered today by deadly domestic violence at a Boca Raton office complex. We have team coverage tonight, beginning with News Channel 5's Alex Sands on the scene. Alex?
Michael, as you know, Florida has the distinction of having one of the highest murder-suicide rates in the country. This morning at a quiet suburban office tower, it happened again. Signs of trouble. An all too familiar ending.
It's just shocking. You don't believe it happens.
Not here. Not at the building Glenn Groman helped build.
To walk onto your property and see 10 or 15 folks with automatic weapons and things of that nature, it's unfortunate we live in a society where this type of thing happens.
It was just after 9:30 when the first calls of police came in. Reports of shots fired. They locked down the building, searched it, and found two people, thought to be husband and wife, shot dead. They were on the 5th floor.
Our units formed up as they'd been trained. They made entry into the building and then went through and secured every portion of the building to include the parking area. It appears to be a domestic situation in which the male shot the victim and then killed himself.
Scott Entergetti says shot and killed Sharon Bellingham. She was a marketing director at CBiz, one of the county's largest accounting firms. He was a former CEO of the Boca News. He'd recently retired from the Falk Counseling Center.
Very nice person, very well regarded. The firm is a very well regarded firm. We've never had any issues or problems.
It's what makes this so hard.
Doesn't really seem like it's happening until you take a step back and you think about it.
Just disbelief. Police still don't have any clear indication as to why this may have happened. People who know this couple tell us they are simply stunned at the news. Alex Sands, WPTV News Channel 5.
Yeah, do you know anybody else that used them words that happened again? Yeah, you know. I've done tons and tons of videos about it happened again. That's right. Big Boss Calvin done videos about it happened again. And quite a few other people come up on YouTube and showed you it happened again. And why did we take all these different news reports and put it in your face what you were doing to one another and saying it happened again? Well, for the same reason the reporter just told you. Okay? The high suicide rate. You want to wonder why that would be? Did you hear what the gal that I put towards the beginning of this video said? Did you hear her message? Did you wonder why that would be? That would be that way because society has divided the genders so bad. So bad. Okay? And people are treating each other the way they wouldn't want to be treated themselves. People are bullying people, outcasting people, ridiculing people. It's done nothing to them. The majority of people who get bullied, ridiculed, and pushed out have absolutely done nothing to nobody. And then a group of you come along because they didn't think with your hive mind. It was programmed into your head by a TV set, a book, or a magazine. And because they didn't fit a fake image that was put in front of you, you know, it's like Player Supreme up on YouTube promoting that in the dating scene you got a game. What's game? Game is manipulation and lies. What does game do for you? That means you have the ability to play the game with somebody else's emotions and feelings. In other words, manipulate, lie, and hurt another human being. All in the name of it's a game. Then the end game happens. It happened again. And somebody gets dead. And this is what I've tried to point out so many times. And it becomes sarcastic sometimes. I turn the stories around so that the other gender can taste what they do to the other gender, to give examples. It pisses the gender off, like the female gender, when you turn the story around and say it's your fault, your fault, your fault, your fault. But it's what the female gender does to the male gender. It's what the male gender does to the female gender. Straight across the board, it's what we're doing to one another. And I've tried to show this for so long to get people to understand, to get them to back up and use their head, not listen to the TV set, not listen to the damn shit that's put in their face, the programming, the social conditioning. To be an individual human being, to think with your own head. How would you feel if this was happening to you? How would you feel if this was happening to you? To get you to think. But most of you people don't want to do that. Not whatsoever. You just want to take the truth and you want to flip it. Or you want to do what Jodi at the Holiday Inn Express, the GM, and her housekeepers do. You want to listen to part of a message. You want to take the words and you want to flip them. You want to play selective hearing. And you want to manipulate it. And you want to flip it and turn it into a lie. And attack somebody because they dared to care about more than themselves. Because they dared to try to point out what we're doing to each other. It was a crime to care about other people. All you got to do is to ask the staff at the Holiday Inn Express in Sheldon, Iowa. It's a crime when you care about other people. When you don't want to see women being killed by a guy and guys being killed by women, and you point out what each other is doing to each other, then it becomes a crime. And then they'll play selective hearing and they'll attack you. And further the behavior that you're pointing out by doing that very same behavior. It's sad. It's sickening. It's pathetic. Okay? And to think that they can justify their behavior by representing the very same behavior themselves. And then when something tragic happens to them, they're going to want somebody to care. Well, why would anybody want to care at that point? You failed to care. And if you fail to care, you can't expect somebody else to care. Because you don't care, don't mean somebody else should care. I mean, it's sick. It's very sick. I should never have lost my job for doing what I'm doing. Maybe they should have practiced listening a little harder to what I was saying. Maybe they should have used being working around me for 2 years and talking to me to come and actually communicate and ask, what am I doing? What am I saying? Why am I doing? To find out something rather than assume. But it was much easier to assume and use a cop-out and use selective hearing, wasn't it, Amber, Jodi, Angela? It was much easier to do that, right? Because then you wouldn't have to acknowledge, right? And if you didn't have to acknowledge, then you could use your cop-out to go around, right? And so that's what you've done. Sad. But the one thing I will do is I'll give the gal I showed you at the beginning of this video her statement, her words. All hands up. All hands up and tell her thank you for them words. Because it is so true. And it's so in your face.